Twitter and everything, and it's just like Ustream, live stream. Wow, holy crap, you know? And it was the same thing with when Berkeley, when the kids and the students were getting, you know, protesting up Berkeley. Nothing on the mainstream ones, but because kids were going all nuts over at Penn State, and you know, and they were defending their coach, you know, they had their moments and their snippets on, and again, the big guys. Locally, and I don't mean to bust chops, I think we, you know, early in the beginning, we really fucking failed, you know, the traditional, well, not really failed, it was really disappointing, and I'll tell you why it was disappointing, because there are so many interesting and different angles of the story, from, you know, okay, talking to the occupiers and talking to the people and getting to know one, and I like that piece, you know, when you're actually, when you took the time to talk to the guys and do the portrait, that was awesome. But then even the other angles too, in terms of, all right, what's the police policy in terms of using pepper spray on people? You know, what's policy? There's a video floating around there. You know, finally I see that, you know, picked it up, of a dude being choked. You know, okay, fine. If that's policy and procedure, cool. Let us know. You know, what about the 1% of San Diego? What do they have to think? Do they think that they're being fairly portrayed? You know, by these guys. You know, what are they doing that's good for them? There's so many different angles that can be covered, and I bust my reporters' chops at the Star News. I think, you know what, unfortunately, because I pay more attention to print, unless it's in the UT, it didn't happen, you know, and so that's why I think it's really disappointing, because, you know, biggest voice, biggest platform, and I'm not going to come down on you guys too hard, because obviously I don't know the answer, and I don't know if it's a budgeting thing, it's a staffing thing, you know, you don't have, or the editors, you know, or what have you, or the management. You know, it's just like,
get a new owner.
Done. Okay, done. Right? There's been so much space and time devoted to other issues. You know, I mean, Comic-Con, it was ad nauseum. You know, every day there was something about that.
Let's not hurt Comic-Con.
No.
Yeah, watch it.
If Occupy took out on its advertising, would there be as much coverage?
I don't think that's a factor, though. Let me ask you guys, Frank and Mike, since we're talking about the coverage of Occupy, do you guys read media? Where do you turn for news on it? Do you care? And what do you think of your portrayals?
Well, I was thinking of, Carlos, what you were saying today. Just today, you know, today's the 2-month anniversary, and a lot was going on in New York City. And who was doing the most of the coverage in New York City? This 25-year-old guy with a laptop. And he was running around. People were donating batteries to him, and everybody, CNN, everybody was using him. So he has no professional experience. Yet he's got a laptop, and he was getting the best coverage that anybody else was getting. That was just today. So I think, you know, to answer your other question, that the corporate media, the mainstream media, really, really failed. They failed American citizenry. They failed themselves. And that's why there are such things as blogs and websites. That's why we started the OB-RAG 4 years ago, OBRAG.org, because we felt that local media was failing the citizens of San Diego, and particularly of our neighborhood then in Ocean Beach. But going on that, Occupy San Diego, you know, we started on October 7th. The first main media coverage was the day this poor guy fell or jumped off the parking structure on October 10th. And that's the first time we saw TV
Wasn't
media.
there a front page story?
There was a front page story that you wrote.
Of the march, right?
Of the march. And then nothing. And I'm especially critical of the TV coverage, because there was no TV cameras down there until that suicide. And then ever since then, what are we reading about? We're reading about the coffee cart lady who we peed and shat on her cart. The hot dog people, we did the same thing with them, which is all untrue, basically. And in 2008, she complained to The Voice, the coffee cart woman, same problems. She blamed it on the homeless. Today, she's blaming it on the occupiers. Pardon? Sorry. So the media has been very weak on one hand, and then of course the conflict, the suicide, the shit and piss and the crap and the blood, that gets coverage. And nobody goes out to try to interview, is it really true? It's just this basic acceptance of whatever the latest rumor is. And my God, there's so many rumors out there. It would melt your mask. So the media coverage except for Matthew Hall. He actually came down, interviewed a bunch of people, including Mike Garcia. Very nice portrait. But Matt, you actually went down there, you talked to people, you stuck around, you were hanging around. And other people will whip out their cameras, whip out their notebooks, interview a few people and leave, and go back to the office or go back to their computer. And that is doing us all a disservice. And that's why projects like DOB RAG, we have a different kind of journalism. We have sort of a distorted journalism. We got involved, I've been involved, Patty, my partner's been involved, other of our bloggers and writers have been involved. And I've spent several nights down there. We've been involved in the general assemblies and ad nauseum, up until 3 a.m. in the morning, discussing. You all know the hand signals? You're supposed to be doing this if you agree with me. If you can't really hang with it, you do this. If you really want to seriously block it, you got to do this. And if I'm taking too long, tell me to why. And I'm not going to do that. So today, a very, very, very historic day. It was, ladies and gentlemen. And your kids will be reading about this 20 years from now. Today, November 17, 2011. But what's on the corporate media? The Penn State scandal. Or Newt Gingrich is now front leader. So those are the stories the mainstream media are picking. That's not what is really happening. And unless you go down and participate in the General Assembly, you really won't understand what's going on. And a lot of media, a lot of coverage is not understanding, first, the basic causes why people are out there and why there aren't any demands. The whole point is to occupy. The occupation is the demand. People are using the Egyptian model. You occupy public space and demand social and economic changes. And guess what? You don't leave until they happen. But good old San Diego, paradise unlocked. We've been blocked by this mayor, by the police chief, by the police department on exercising our rights. But what's happened in the meantime? We had a beautiful village for about 5 days. Occupy San Diego had a new type of village. Right there, we had 100 tents. We had a free food line. We had a free kitchen. People were washing their plates. People were donating food and drinks, bring them in. We had a medical tent. We had with a cot. We had a comfort station giving out free clothing and blankets. We had two libraries. And by the way, the library in New York City was destroyed. We had a media tent, we had a legal committee, we had a PR committee. So we had a small incubating society where we were trying to change the way people related to each other. And it was beautiful for about 3-4 days. And, for some reason, camping in a public space is illegal. And we can't have tents. And so, the Occupy San Diego movement, and, let me do this, man, if I'm taking too long. The Occupy movement has run into the poverty that's here with us every day. If there wasn't any Occupy scene going on at all, we wouldn't be here, of course, discussing this. But there's homeless people sleeping on every doorway. They were here before you were. So what happens is that Occupy San Diego ran into the homeless problem. We started feeding homeless people. In some people's eyes, that's a crime. It's a crime to feed people that are poor. We were handing out 500 to 1,000 meals a day. Think about that. 500 to 1,000 meals a day. But that wasn't good enough for old Mayor Sanders. So we ran into the poverty.
Cut it in for a second.
Sure.
To media and ask Mike, because you're one of the media liaisons with the movement.
Good say.
How much of it is incumbent upon you and others in the movement to let the media know we're doing this today, come on down? And how much of this is a two-way street? How do you get your message out?
Well, that's